Hello, welcome to our RegoUniversity webinar series. Today we'll cover what's new in CA PPM 15.5.1 and the mobile app. I'm Camille Pack, Director of Marketing. Thanks for joining us today. So before we start, I'd like to take a moment to point out some of the features on your webinar dashboard. You can resize any of the visible boxes, just click and drag them. There is a box titled Resource List. In this box, we've posted a link to our next webinar, which is Financial Management in CA PPM, and links to our 15.0 white paper, our roadmap printer, and RegoUniversity, which is the largest Clarity and Agile training and networking event of the year. We hope you'll join us September 29th in beautiful San Diego. If you'd like to schedule a meeting with a Rego consultant, just click on the Contact Rego button, and that purple Q&A box is where you can submit your questions, which we will do our best to answer during the webinar. If there are questions we can't get to, then we'll reply to your email address. So this webinar is being recorded and will be made available shortly after the live broadcast. And while we wait for people to log in, we've got a poll question for you. What modern UX functionality does your organization find the most compelling? And our choices are time, roadmap, staffing, and projects. So let's get started. Joining me again are Rego legends Hensel and Sara Garvey. If you've joined for any of our other Clarity release webinars, you know that they love to take your questions, so keep them coming. And Ross, I'll turn the time over to you, and you can show the poll results.
Perfect. All right, everyone, welcome to today's version. 15.5.1 is what we'll be covering today. I'll take you through 15.5.1 and the modern UX and the changes that came out in this recent release. And then I'll pass it over to Sara, and she'll take you through the mobile application that CA has released. It technically came out in 15.5, but you need to have a specific patch. And then obviously in 15.5.1, it is readily available for you to use. So take a look at our poll questions here. Looks like everyone's the most excited about time and mobile time, right? Oh, no, I lied. Roadmaps. Roadmaps is the winner with a close second to time and mobile time. So luckily, I've got a few enhancements that came out with roadmaps. And then additionally, Sara's going to take you through mobile time. So we'll cover both of those today. Staffing and projects, there are some enhancements for projects. And staffing won't get touched on much today, but we'll definitely look at projects, roadmaps, and mobile time through this demo. So with that said, if you've been through any of these before, we like to not do any PowerPoints. We're all hands on here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get the party started. All right. And Sara, you're there. Can you see my screen?
Sure can. Yep, and I'm ready to answer questions. So as you have them, just pop them into that Q&A box.
Sure. All right, perfect. So let's get started. So 15.5.1, one of the newest features that came out with this was the ability to add sub-objects on your projects. So all I'm going to do is open up one of my existing projects here. So we'll click on Build the Lab. You can see at the details page it opens up to, and across the top all my channels. When you add a custom sub-object to a project, there's a few things that need to be done on the admin side, and I'll show you what that looks like real quick. So we have test sub-object. So what I did is I went through and actually made a custom sub-object on project. So what it looks like is you can name the object whatever you'd like. The object master either has to be investment or project. And then what happens is when you're creating it, you actually have to populate an API attribute ID, and that's what enables it to be in the new UX. So you can see I've got one here called test sub object. If I flip back over into the new UX, you can see I have a channel up here with just that same name. And it works and functions just like an object that you would be able to configure on the admin side in Classic. I can add new attributes, make things required, make things not required, all that same abilities kind of flow through to the modern UX. In addition, it works just like all the other grid views in the modern UX. You can click the plus to add a new line item. You can right-click and delete the row, and everything kind of updates on the fly as you go through and just click and tab between the cells. Same concept for adding any additional fields. You can see this is a very basic object. I just added in one sample here. But you can go through and add as many attributes as you'd like onto this screen as well. So you'd be able to have any custom sub-objects and fields on the screen for you to edit. You do have to configure this view into the blueprint. So if you were to open up one of your project blueprints, and we all know that blueprints are the way to manage what's available in the new UX and what you see on the screen. So what I'll do is I'll just open up one of my blueprints here, my Rego blueprint. And if I go to modules, what you'll see here is these are all those available modules. There's that test sub-object module, and all I did was bring it over here and add it to one of my channels. And so now it's available for me to view in this specific blueprint. So that's a custom sub-object that I've created. As you all know, there is one out-of-the-box sub-object for project that comes, and that is the status report sub-object. So you do have, and it is available here for you to drag over and add into your view. What I would recommend for you is when you're in a project, you'll see two tabs, right? This is the status report that came with the modern UX. And this is our new tab in 15.5.1 for basically the classic status report, but in the new UX. It is a grid view format. So you can click on the status report here, and it has all your custom fields. If you had any custom fields, you'd be able to pull those in, and any additional fields that maybe aren't available on the modern UX status report. So our piece of advice, if you do choose to use the status reports, the classic status reports in the new UX, so if you choose to enable this tab right here, we vote that you disable the current modern UX tab, just so you don't have two places where people could enter in status reports. So if you're looking, I would say if you're looking to utilize any custom objects on your status report, or if you're looking to have additional fields that maybe aren't available on the modern UX status report, we recommend you use this tab. However, as we all know, this one is very easy to use, very straightforward. If you're okay with this status report, we suggest you use this one if you don't need to do any customization to the status reporting as it is right here today. So hopefully that made some sense as far as status reports. I'll pause there, Sarah, if there's any questions on status reporting or sub-objects on projects.
Nope, we're good. I just got a new one, but I'll answer it too that just came in.
Okay, cool. As you know, we like questions, so keep them flowing if you have any on this topic. So next, what we'll cover is they allowed you to do multiple instances of the same role to tasks. So what I've got here, and I'm going to get out of that view, that's next. So what I've got here is I'm just going to click on the project. I'll look at the staff. You can see right now I have a project manager and an architect. What I'm able to do is actually add in that additional architect onto my task. So now you can have multiple roles assigned to the same task, kind of as you're flowing through and managing a project. Similar to what you do in Classic, but you're able to accomplish that same task in the modern UX. So that's just a small one there. There is a complete new view, which you got a little preview to when I first navigated to the task page. So before we had the list view, we had the board view here. And then the last view that's brand new in 15.5.1 is a grid view for tasks. So this is comparable to the task list on a project in Classic. It's a flat view of your task, so you won't see any indentations if you have things at phase levels or summary levels or anything like that. It's only going to show you tasks and milestones. But what this view does allow you to do is pull in any custom fields that maybe you weren't able to grab on the first two views in the modern UX. So you're able to pull in any custom views or custom fields onto the screen and make updates to those. In addition to that, the ETC over here, or any of the values really, can be made to view in FTE or hours. The way you do that is just in the top right, you'll click on Settings, and then under General, what you'll see here is the unit of measure. And you can flip it over to hours, and now you'll see that ETC looks like hours instead of FTEs. So that 160 represents that 2 FTE that we saw previously. All right. With these changes, there is one new global right that CA introduced, or Broadcom introduced. It's called Project Task Management All. It's a global right. And what it does is it provides you to the ability for any projects that you can view the tasks on, you're able to update the task information. So you'd be able to assign task owners, do to-dos. Any of that information would be readily available if you had that global right. So it's just one additional right that we wanted to make note of that came out with this release. All right, so let's go into one more piece that came out with regards to tasks, and that's really the to-do. Got a little bit of an enhancement here. So to-dos in the modern UX, before they were just kind of small bullet points, no real start date or no real finish date, no really owner. In 15.5.1, CA has added in the ability to add a finish date as well as assign an owner to a to-do. So this is if you're running an Agile project and maybe you want to capture time at a higher level, but you still need those maybe detailed tasks below, but you don't really want to track at that level, track time at that level. So let's say, for example, the define scope and change control process here. Maybe there's some things that go along with that, but maybe I want to capture it at a higher level. So I have 3 tasks here. Maybe I need to create the document, set up the meeting, discuss requirements. Those are part. What I can do is actually make to-dos for those and just give them assignments and give them due dates to end users and track the detail there, but have people log time at the higher level or at the task level. So I'll show you how we do that. You can click a new to-do in the upper right. So let's say close out requirements. If I can spell, there we go. Close out requirements. When you click off of that, you get 2 options here. This one right here is the due date for that particular to-do. So I'm just going to make it, let's say, the 23rd. And then right here is where I can actually assign that to-do to someone. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass it to myself. You can assign to teams. You can assign to resources. It is a one resource to assignment, so you can't assign to multiple people. But this is how you can quickly create a to-do. And obviously, you can add as many as you want. You can check them off here, but I'm also going to show you an additional view that came out in 15.5.1 that provides you kind of an overall view of to-dos across the board that you can kind of filter on. So I'll pause there real quick. Sara, any big questions so far?
No. Somebody's asking again about why there's 2 tabs for the status report. So if you could just maybe highlight that maybe one more time, why, because we see the 2 statuses on your screen there.
Sure. So this status report, this came out with the modern UX. This was the new UX status report. And it's not customizable, it's not configurable. What you see on the screen is kind of what you get. The second tab here is in 15.5.1, they enabled the ability to have custom sub-objects on projects. And status report is a custom sub-object of projects, so it's available here. If you were to use this tab here, you're able to add in custom fields, you're able to add in and customize any of your status reporting and attributes that you'd like populated or filled out when people do status reports. So I guess our suggestion here is, if you can get by with this status report and populate all the information necessary and you don't need any additional fields or your company's not requesting any additional fields, then go ahead and use this out-of-the-box status report. It's very slick, it's very easy to use, and you can generate the report just kind of on the screen. However, if your company requires any more detailed reporting or any custom attributes to be captured in your status reports, we recommend that you use the status report. So in a perfect world, you wouldn't have both of these tabs. You would pick one of those tabs and use that status report going forward. So, all right. So everyone saw how we were able to add in to-dos and kind of assign a due date and an owner. If you do not assign a due date, it will assume the task end date. If you don't assign an owner, it does not assume anything, and it will just be flagged as unassigned in the next view that I'm going to show you. Okay. So the new view that came out is a to-do scoreboard. So over here on the left-hand side, there's an option for tasks. Normally, if you're not on 15.5.1, it will bring you to a page like this that will list out tasks kind of across the system. Right now, I'm filtered on a specific project, so I could look at all the tasks for anesthesia delivery. However, in 15.5.1, they've added in a second option here, and that's your to-do scorecard or scoreboard. So what this view, I'll cover just a few of the things that you see on the screen. Up here at the top is really your filtering options. So right now, I'm looking for any to-dos that are due between January 1st and February 9th, and that's what I'm pulling back. I do have some additional criteria up here that I could use if I wanted to look at a specific project or a task owner or the to-do owner. I could filter by any of those criteria as well. Right now, I'm just going to open it up, and I'm just going to look at all to-dos across the system from January 1st through February 9th that are due between those dates. And what I get back there's 9 total, right? So here's my total column. Right now, I'm filtered on to-do owner. So these are how the to-dos are assigned out. I have 3 options here. I can sort by project, I can sort by to-do owner, and I can sort by task owner. So some information that we get on the screen. I've completed 3, and you can see that in a few different spots. The completed 3 here, I've done 33% of those, so the 9 would be the total. And then the total line item is right here at the top. So I've completed 3 out of my 9, 33%. My pace so far has been 0.27 per day, and I need to keep going at a pace of 0.2 to finish out my to-dos. I have 6 to go. I have 30 days left to complete those to-dos. And again, here's your pace and your paces so far. The breakout right now is by to-do owner. So you can see that I've got Sara here, Ross, and Davey all with some to-dos assigned. Sara's completed half of hers. I've not done any. And Davey has completed half of his, so you can see that percentage there as well. You can see the target pace for the individual resource, and then the target pace that's required, and the pace so far that they've been able to accomplish. If you need some more detail, so let's say, for example, Ross hasn't really completed any of his to-dos, go ahead and click on his name, and you can see all the to-dos that are assigned to Ross. So you can see closeout requirements, define scope, change, and control process. So this is the to-do. Just below that is the name of the task, and just below that is the name of the project. As you can see here, over on the far right, that's the due date of the to-do. This is also the due date of the to-do, and just like I mentioned before, if I don't give a to-do date or an assigned due date for my to-do, it does assume the task end date. However, it doesn't publish it here. So it'll assume the task end date, but it won't display that information there, just letting you know that you haven't picked one, but it still falls within this date range, January 1st through February 9th. Okay. To quickly close out any of these, let's say I'm meeting with my team, I pull them all to a room, I've got Sara, I've got Ross, I've got Davey all in the room. We're going through these and I'm saying, okay, Ross, well, you haven't done any of these. I know they're not due yet, but have you completed any of these? And they say, I come back and I say, oh yeah, you know what? I've actually completed this one. Well, while we're all in the room gathered, I can go ahead and check that off, mark that as that to do completed, and you see it changes in real time. I've now completed that one. It's 4 completed, and my overall percentage, 44% going forward. I can go through all my team members like this. You can quickly filter up here at the top. If I didn't want to see Sara's completed, yeah, she's already done with those, so I don't really care. I just want to see her open ones. Let's say she had a list of 100 to-dos, because Sara's great. She has 100 to-dos on there, and they're all open. Most of them are closed. We can filter those out and just view the ones that are open and quickly take action on those. All right, and the same concept kind of applies for all of these. In addition to sorting by to-do owner, I can sort by project. So you can see I have 2 projects here. This is how the to-dos are split out. Build Castle's only got 2, and Build the Lab has 7 to-dos. And then the same kind of notion, right? I can click on any of those and see all the to-dos for that project just by clicking on the name of the project. And then the last option here is task owner. So this isn't the to-do owner. This is actually one level above, right, at the task level. So I can see that Rod owns this defined scope and change control process, but the to-dos under him may be assigned out to different people. But all of his are complete, but I could go through here and I could say, uh-oh, we've got one task in here without a assigned to-do. So maybe we need to go into Build the Lab, go into this task, and assign wireframe drafted to a specific user to complete. Okay. So the hope here is more collaboration between team members. I can get them all in a room. I can go through all somewhere else because they're way ahead of schedule, but I can get everyone in a room and quickly take action on any tasks that I have here. And we can all sit down. I can click on Sara's name and we can say, okay, well, these aren't due for another 2 weeks, so you're good. And kind of go through the entire process like that. So Sarah, I will pause there. Are there any questions on the to-do scoreboard or to-dos in general?
Yeah, a couple. So just generally, maybe you can cover kind of how you would use to-dos in correlation with tasks, like what's the difference and what's the best practice around when and where to use those. And then some questions around the date on the to-do versus the dates in your filter, like how those are correlating.
Sure. So the date on the to-do, so I'll start with the quicker answer first. So the date on the to-do, over here on the far right-hand side, so you can see that these are due on January 1st and February 6th. These up here, so let's say if I got rid of January 1st, let's say I only want to look at things from January 2nd through February 9th, you can see that refresh, and that one for Davey has now fallen off. So it was due on the 1st, but I'm filtering between the 2nd and the 9th, so it's fallen off my filter. So that's kind of the correlation. Right here, this filter at the top is just looking at the due dates between, the range of dates between when your to-dos, when you've assigned them to be due. The second piece, Sarah, the second question that you asked was around the difference between tasks and to-dos. So if I go look at a project, 9 times out of 10, you didn't really have an option. If you wanted to capture the full work breakdown structure, going forward,
You lost your screen share.
Yeah, my computer is not liking me, but I'll keep talking through it. So going through, and I'll share back in just a second, but going through the to-dos, screen share. When you're going through, might have to refresh. Nope, we're good. All right, I'm back. Can you see?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So the difference between to-dos and tasks, right? So before, if you were building out an entire work breakdown structure, you may have some tasks on there that maybe you want to capture because they're important, but not necessarily important enough for people to track time at that detailed level. But you still wanted to make note of them and, assign someone to them. What to-dos allow you to have is, let's say, for example, you have a requirements definition, let's just go back to my example, define scope, change, and control process. So you have an overall task and something that needs to be done. And maybe you want them to track time at that higher level, and you can assign resources at that level so they can track time. But just below that, let's say there's maybe 5 steps that need to happen in order for that task to be marked as complete. So what to-dos open up the ability to have is, I can go through and add those 5 tasks that not necessarily I want people to have in my work breakdown structure to be tracked at that detailed level. Excuse me. To be tracked at that detailed level. But what I can have is some to-dos on there, and I can say, okay, Sarah, Davey, and Ross will be on these to-dos, and I need those 5 things done, and then we can consider this task complete. So they'll all track time at that defined scope and change control process, but there may be 5 things on there that I don't want them to track time at, but they still need to be done in order for this task to be marked as complete. So it's another way, and utilizing that to-do board, that scoreboard, kind of another way for a resource or an Agile or project manager, Scrum Master to go in and really drive in on those changes that they're seeing from all those tasks and kind of monitor what their team members are doing without having to create mundane tasks for each one to kind of, did you put your time here? Did you put your time here? Did you put your time here? I can just go through and say, you're going to get 50 hours of ETC for this task, and then these 5 to-dos need to be done. Okay. Sarah, any other questions? Or if you have another explanation, I'm all ears.
Can to-do assignees update their own to-dos?
So in the modern UX, and this is actually something that I think came out in 15.4.1. So in 15.4.1, there used to be in the modern UX, there used to be a way for, there was a module on here called, Conversations. This Conversations tab, and I'm just going to bring it into my blueprint real quick. In the modern UX, when you added someone to your project, they automatically got the rights to update your task list, meaning they can modify tasks, they could delete tasks, they could create new tasks, and that was just part of the modern UX. And the way you did that was you would go here to the conversations page and you would do add staff, and I would add Sara on here, and the system would automatically grant rights to Sara to modify the tasks. In 15.4.1, I believe it was, and I can follow up, but in 15.4.1, they actually changed the logic based on customer feedback. So if you don't add people via this conversations tab and you only onboard people via the new tab, which is staff, they will not get rights to update their tasks. So if you add people via the staff, they won't have the option to update staff and won't have their tasks, and they will, thus won't have the option to update to-dos. But if you add them via the conversations page, they will get task edit rights on the project. So one more time, conversations tab, if you add a new team member via this page, they will get the ability to update tasks granted by the system. And if you add a new resource via the staff page, they will not get the ability to update tasks. So you have the option if you enable that tab or not. Most customers, what I've seen is we've disabled this conversations tab because most project managers wouldn't want their end users or their task people to update tasks on there. So that is why this view is important. I can get all my team members in one room. I can go through here and say, click on Sara, see the to-dos in here, and then I'm looking at Sara, we're having a conversation, and I can quickly mark them off for her. Okay? So you have the option to give them the ability to update their to-dos, but they don't out of the box if you add them via the staff page. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yep. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. In 15.5.1, there is another option where you're able to, so in 15.5, we released, or CA released, the ability to do custom investment types, meaning I can come to this option up here that says investments, and I can make all different kinds of investment types, business case, funding request, new UX idea, anything like that. I can make different types of investments. In a previous release, they were beta. They were not ready for mass consumption, but they were available, and they were pretty limited in what you could do. In 15.5.1, just the CA promise, they've enhanced them, and they'll continue to do so. One of the enhancements is that they have blueprints for any of those. So you can see down here I have funding request, there's the business case, a new UX idea. So I have all different types of blueprints available for my custom investments. So what I did is business case, and it functions just the same way that you would for your blueprint on your standard project blueprint. So if I were to go into this business case, this is the one that gets auto-made when I make the custom investment. You can see that I can't edit it. I can't really touch it. So what I have to do is actually create a copy of it. So I'll just make a copy, and I've already done one. You can see it right down here. And then this is the one that I'll be able to edit. So I can come in here, I can click on edit, and I can build out my custom screen just like I would for a project. So I can add in, rearrange the fields, add in additional fields. If I have custom fields, I can add those in. Any of that is available here, just like it would be for a project. Where it's a little bit limited is there aren't any visuals, obviously, and there's no modules or channels, right? So there's not any different tabs in here. In a custom investment, you're only getting the details page, which is what we're configuring here. In addition to that, CA has opened up financials for the business case, or sorry, not for business case, but for custom investment types. So for the business case or for that new UX idea or any of those, you can see that the out-of-the-box, the simple budget fields, meaning plan cost, plan benefit, when they start, when they finish, all that information is available, and you can pull that onto the screen. So just like the simple budget that you could use in project or idea, you can now use simple budget on custom investment types. And you'll see, I'll show you in a little bit why that's important. So just so you can see here that I've got my blueprint here, I'm going to go into that. Wrong button. I'm going to go into that business case. When I do open up that business case, everyone will come to the grid view, and that's the standard view here. And what you can do is you can add in any additional fields that you'd like to see. There's all those financial fields that they've opened up in 15.5.1. But the new option here is I can actually click on that grid view. So we have one here called a new project, I can actually click on that, and now I get a detail screen. In the top, it also lets you know what kind of investment type that you're in. So you can see I'm in a business case here, which the name is a little misleading. Maybe we'll call that a new business case. And what you can see is I can update any of the fields here, and they will be reflected. So if I, and here's even one of the financial fields, I can go ahead and update the plan benefit here and have that available in my screen. To jump back, fairly simple. Just click on the business case, and you can see that I jump back. And then I could add in any of those fields, just like plan benefit. So there's that number that I just updated. So 2 new enhancements here in 15.5.1, the ability to click on this and open up a details page, obviously, and then configure that via the blueprint, and the addition of the financial fields. So the simple budget fields are available. So no detail. So let me just clarify the difference between simple and detailed budget. A simple budget meaning you're just giving an overall plan benefit number and an overall plan cost number. A detailed financials would be something like in project if you're using cost plans or benefit plans or budget plans. Those are detailed budgets. So a simple budget is just kind of giving an overall number. You're not breaking it out by transaction class or cost type or anything like that. You are just, you can't break it out by cost type, but you're just breaking it out kind of overall for the duration of the investment. Okay? So no time scale, anything like that with regards to budget in this. We've been told it's coming, but I'm not going to make any guarantees or promises on CA's behalf. So, Sara, any questions on custom investments or the financial field? I'll take that as a no.
Sorry, I'm like typing on a million questions right now. There's a lot of questions. I'm trying to catch up, but I think you're good. Okay. Let me look at what's here at the top. Yeah, so a couple questions around these custom investments, like why is business case and custom investment? What are these things here? So maybe you could just talk about that. These are ones that we've created.
Sure. Yeah. So these are all just sample. What we thought maybe some custom investments. So as you know, in the modern UX, there are no ideas, right? And ideas for companies mean different things. So an idea for a financial company may be a new project going forward that we need to enhance. A new idea for maybe a customer service or a services-based company may be, I allow all my employees to input ideas on what would make the company better. So ideas mean different things for different segments of users of PPM. So what we did is you can make these anything. These are just things that Rego came up with. So one of these on here could just be called idea to mimic the same functionality that you got in Classic with regards to idea. So you could have business case, you can have literally whatever you want. You can make a custom investment type for that. And custom investment types, they are available to be pulled into roadmaps, and that's the real big win here in 15.5.1 is that I can pull any of these information and any of these numbers into the roadmap, so they would be available there for you to consume in your roadmap. Because right now the roadmaps are just limited to projects, and they're fairly simple to create. You create an object in here, and basically you populate the object extension with investment. And that's where you're able to create a new type. So just like you saw business case on there, I can make a new one here that's called, Ross's Great Ideas, and we can have that as another type here. So kind of unlimited and all-encompassing, you can make different types of investments here that you needed to track anything on. Okay. Anything else, Sara?
Nope, I think we're good.
All right, like 3 more things and then it's all yours. All right, so last few things here. In roadmaps, so some few enhancements in roadmaps. Go ahead and open up the roadmap. The ability to manage pick lists has been enhanced. So before you used to have to kind of jump around here. You used to have to go to manage, and then you'd have to go into pick lists. In 15.5.1, they've made the pick lists a little bit easier. If you click on the sprocket, the gear, the cog, the settings button up here at the top, you can go into Manage Pick List, and it will show you all of your custom pick lists, and you can quickly manage them here. You can rename them, you can remove them, and then you can add new, obviously. This is available for anyone who has edit rights to this roadmap. If you only have view rights, you won't even see this edit or this Manage Pick List option. Okay. In addition to managing pick lists made easier, we can also sync custom investments. So I'm just actually going to get rid of my business case here because that was my business case. I'm going to show you, so just like you saw on investments, we had that business case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that I can pull over that business case. So before, when you were able to sync, and I'm just going to reset it real quick, you can pull things from PPM, you can import from a CSV, and then the third option is once you've already imported from PPM, you can resync any linked items. When you click on Import from PPM in 15.5.1, you do get some additional options here. So before, you used to just have project, and you would sync in projects and pull those in. For any business case, or sorry, any custom investments that you have, you are able to go ahead and sync those as well. So you saw that I made one business case. I can go ahead and click on business case. There's my new business case. You saw me editing it before. I can go ahead and say I want to sync that, and then I'm just going to go ahead and import it. You'll see the little message on the screen, and we'll give it a minute or so, and it will update. So again, that applies to any custom investments that you have. You'd be able to pull any of that information into and sync it with a roadmap. So whereas before you were limited to just projects, you're actually not limited to projects anymore, and you can pull in custom investment types. What you have here is I'm pulling in a business case. Keep in mind, this is a dev environment, so it's a little bit slower than normal, but you'll see that line item come in just a second. So there it is down at the bottom. You can see I added it in. You do have one column to let you know if you do pull in anything other than a project, what it is. So you can see that this one was a business case, and no one can change that. It will always be set to a business case. But again, if you had different custom investment types for anything, you'd be able to pull any of those in. All right. And one of the last things that I'll show you, in the board view got a little bit of an enhancement. So before, you had all these columns across the top based off of your settings up here. So right now they're representing the status. One enhancement that came through in 15.5.1 is over here on the right, you'll see a little tab for columns. If I click that, I'll get a flyout. If I didn't want to see some of these columns, like I don't really care what things were completed, I can choose to hide that column. So now you have the ability to hide columns. Not only does this apply here in the roadmap, but it also applies in a project, the task board as well. So I'll show you that real quick as well. So if I go to Build a Lab, and I look at tasks, and here's my board view, you can see that its status is across the top. That same column option is here, and I can go ahead and get rid of any that I don't want to see. Okay. And again, 15.5.1 was a big push to kind of standardize all the views. So if you're seeing, this task view or this board view kind of across the system, then you should see this column section so you can hide and remove columns. So that's one of the big ones here. They're trying to make all the views very consistent so the user experience remains constant as you move through the tool. The last thing I'll show you is there was a small timesheet enhancement on the admin side. So there is a new option if you look under time reporting periods. So if you don't know, there are time reporting periods in the system. This is how people know which weeks they can track time to and what day of the week your week starts on, whether it's Monday to Sunday or Sunday to Saturday, that kind of thing. There is a new option, a new column over here. As you can see, it's called Mark for Deletion. So if I ever wanted to delete old time periods, I could go in here and mark those for deletion. In previous versions, you had to actually reverse out any transactions, and then you could delete the time period, but it would also, there was a process that you had to run through with projects to kind of get those trued up. This new mark for deletion and the subsequent job that goes with it will go through and actually do all that cleanup for you so you don't have to. So that was one of the bigger wins here. In future releases, you'll see things like the ability to delete investments, and it will pull out just strip out their actuals with it. And then also the ability to delete resources and pull out only their actuals. Again, that's coming, not available now. The ability to delete time periods. And the more detailed information is actually available on CA's website. I'm not super technical, but you can obviously open up CA's documentation, and you'll be able to view, I'll wait for it, right here, marking time periods for deletion. So you'll be able to review any of the detailed information on that. All right, I think that's the only thing I wanted to cover. There is the one last piece. There are 2 new reports that came out. I won't demo those, but I'll just kind of give you a blurb so you can say that I did tell you about them. There's a roadmap timeline report that looks similar to what you're seeing on my screen here. It's available in Jaspersoft for that road mapping option in the new UX. Since I know that was a lot of customers are excited about road mapping, there is a new report for that. It's available in Jaspersoft in 15.5.1. And then there is also a PPM trending, a KPI trends report. This one focuses on, it looks like status report. So you can see how, status report and also open risk issues and change requests. So you can see how projects trend over time. So there are 2 new reports available in Jaspersoft as well in this release. All right, Sarah, any questions before I hand it over to you?
Nope, but can you sing and dance for a second so I can get my thing working?
Yeah,
I'm working on it.
So, yeah. So let me just run through. We don't normally cover a lot of the detailed information on the technical pieces that were enhanced. They're all in the release notes from CA. If you're not familiar, you can log on to CA Support's website and pull those down, any of the release notes and any of the change impact when you do upgrade. But you can see here some of the Jaspersoft 7.1 is now supported for this new version. So you get new ad hoc views and some of the components and overall kind of experience updated. Team tables in the data warehouse, those were also added in this version as well. So you'll be able to pull, again, I'm not technical, but I'll do my best here. Should enhance some of your reporting capabilities there. And then, like I said, the 2 new reports. The roadmap one I'm actually really excited about. There wasn't a good way to pull those out. But if you do, and if you're not familiar with, Rego does have the roadmap printer option. So if I were in a roadmap here, and I actually have it installed, it's a Chrome plugin. But if you go to the timeline view here and I were to click on the roadmap option, I can actually, and this is something Rego developed, but I can actually choose to print that and then pull it out as a PDF, and now you can see it pulled out my roadmap as a PDF. So a few options that you have to get the information out. They are available in Jaspersoft as data warehouse. You can pull them out here via the Rego tool, the roadmap print. And then the last but not least is CA released that newest report here, the roadmap timeline report, in 15.5.1 that you're able to grab. And then I'm happy to see that they've got a new report out for the trending as well. I know that was a big win kind of in previous versions, so now we're seeing some reporting coming out of that as well. All right, Sarah.
I'm ready.
You good? All right,
yeah.
I'm passing the buck.
Okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take a look at the mobile app. This is the very first time that we are sharing a phone on this, and so we've had some fun learning on how to do that over the past couple days. So bear with me if anything goes funky with this. Really the first time that we've tried to do the phone share here. So just before we go into the app itself, I wanted to cover some of the rights that are new and are associated with the mobile app. And so you see here we've got 2 rights that have been added. There's the mobile access, and then we also have a specific right around entering time. Now, all you can do in the mobile app right now is enter time. But you see with the rights here that they're moving toward kind of the approach where there's going to be more and more functionality that will be available in this mobile app. So that's what the access right is for. It's essentially saying this user can, even get to CA PPM from the mobile app. And then we have the additional right for entering time. So for now, you'll have to give your users both of those rights. And then I would expect as we go through subsequent releases here, we'll start to see more and more rights around maybe approving time and starting to do some other things on the mobile app. One other thing we wanted to show, just because we ran into this ourselves when trying to log in, we were getting an internal error occurring as we were logging into the app. And this is what we kind of came up, this is what we found, and we actually had to have one of our developers go in and disable this field in the features table so that we could log in. So this is a knowledge base article that's out there. If you're trying to log in and you're running into, you're seeing this specific error at the top of the screen, that would be one thing to have somebody check on your instance. Okay, here we go. So here's the mobile app. I've got it installed. This is my iPhone, or it's not even my iPhone, but it's just a phone that we've got this installed on. The app is just called CA PPM, so it's newly available. It's not the same app that you were using before. If you were using Time before, a whole new app that's available on your app store, so you can grab that and download it. When you access the app, you will see this screen, and we can log in with a couple different things with SSO, with just a straight, environment URL, username, password, and then you can log in directly to the on-demand portal. I know people are going to have some specific questions about logins and tokens and all kinds of different things. We'll also do his best to answer some of those questions, but with login stuff, it's always kind of fairly tied to your environment and the way that that works. And so, again, he'll do his best to answer your questions, but if he can't, we can follow up afterwards on some of those. Okay, so I've entered my password and I've logged in here, and you see right now that I have 3 time periods available to me. So these are always the 3 time periods that will be available. If your system has, 10 time periods open, time recording periods available, you're still only going to see these 3 in the mobile app. So right now, mobile app only is going to show us the current period, the previous period, and the next period. Before I go into a timesheet here, I'm just going to show the little setting over here. So if I click that, you can see I get to my menu. And right now, I only have that My Timesheet link in there. Again, you can see how this is going toward likely there being, additional links in this menu in the future. For now, only My Timesheet. And obviously, I can log out there if I want to. I'm going to click into one of these timesheets. You can see we posted one of those, so that one's in the posted state. But I'm going to click into one of these open ones. I'll go to last week's period. And once I click in there, this is my populate screen. And so it looks a little bit different than what we're used to seeing, but really we've got all of the same kind of options here for populating our timesheet. We've got the tasks from our previous timesheet there at the top. So that's saying, hey, I want to pull in the stuff that I entered on my timesheet last week. The next setting here is the tasks from assignments. So that's saying, the newly assigned stuff that I've got to work on this week. And then down here below, you can see I've got all the different tasks from the project that I'm working on. So I can pick these, or projects if you've got multiple. Looks like I'm only on one. No, I've got lots of tasks. So we've got a filter here at the top, and we can use that filter to filter through the task names. We can populate from our previous timesheet, and we can add things in. So if I'm going to pick to include my tasks from my previous timesheet, I'm going to copy the hours as well. So I want to add in my tasks from assignments, and then I can also pick and choose individual tasks here in the list. And then once I'm ready, I'll click Add Tasks. And that will populate these values or these items into my timesheet. So now here I am. I'm in the timesheet itself now, and you can see my tasks are grouped together under the parent project. And on the screen, I've got a couple tasks from one project and a couple tasks from another project. I start here on the total. So this is the total sum for the day, for the week. We've got a setting enabled in our timesheet settings that allows for the entry of line item totals, and I can show that setting in a few moments. But because we have that enabled, I can go into a task and I can enter a total for the week. So I could say, okay, I worked on this task 8 hours this week. And what that will do, if I go now to some of the daily tasks, it will just evenly split those hours, as you'll see here, 2 hours across each of the days. Looks like it didn't totally evenly split it. But so in order to be able to enter that daily total, you'll need to have that setting enabled on your timesheet settings, the system options, the timesheet settings for the to allow the entry of line item totals. If that checkbox is not checked in your environment, these totals will be read-only. It'll just be a read-only sum. Sorry, these totals will be a read-only sum of the hours entered in the day-by-day settings. After that, though, I can go day by day, and I can go into each task and say, I worked 8 hours this day, and then we can come over to this day and say we worked 7 hours on this. And so really the population is pretty straightforward. It's pretty similar to kind of what you're doing. That's a lot of hours for one day. It's pretty similar to what you're doing in the timesheet today. But we basically go through and we get all of our hours here in this timesheet. If I forgot to add a task to my timesheet, you'll see I've got the option here down at the bottom where I can go back and I can add additional items back into my timesheet. So I can use the search at the top if I want to, but I can find a new task here in the list and I can add that, and now I can start entering some time against that new task. Once I'm ready to go, I can go ahead and submit this timesheet. And so back to my options here at the bottom, I can click Submit. We've got the timesheet affirmation confirmation set to display in this environment, so I see that confirmation message, and I can go ahead and submit that timesheet. And now back in my main view here, I can see that my current timesheet is submitted, and I can still look at that and look at the read-only information if I want to. And then obviously I've got this other timesheet that is in the posted state. You'll notice on this posted timesheet, I don't have an adjust. There's no adjusting available in here just yet. And I can't return my submitted timesheet to myself and make any edits to that. So some of that type of functionality we'd still have to do in the software itself, go online and do that in the application if we needed to do an adjustment or return a timesheet. All right, Ross, any questions?
Just want to cover, I know you said these, but I'll just say that. Right now, the timesheet is submit only, so there's no approval.
Yep, no approval.
And then okay. I didn't have a good answer for this one, but what happens if you have the old and new apps both installed?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we've tested that. I would assume the old one wouldn't work, but I can't attest to that. I just didn't think the old one had much traction, so hopefully not many people run into that.
Yep. And then I just wanted to show here those two settings I was talking about. So under administration, under project management, we've got our timesheet options. And here is the option to allow the entry of the line item total. And remember, that setting is the one that would allow us to enter a total for the week for a task and have it just kind of split out across the days. If that's unchecked, we'll force the users to enter the day-by-day values, task by task, for their hours worked. And that would apply, obviously not just to the mobile app, but that's going to apply to timesheets in the system itself. And then here's that message around whether or not we want to display the attestation message. And so if you've got that unchecked, that additional confirm that I got when I submitted my timesheet would not display. All right. Ross, any other questions on that?
What happens on the back end? Timesheets to ensure contract workers have enough money on an active contract. I can answer that one. I feel like no other questions. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of the topics that we wanted to cover here. We will stick around for a little while longer, so if you've got some additional questions, just continue to pop those into the chat window, and Ross and I will continue to answer some of those. And again, questions on anything, not just the mobile time, but anything that we've covered here today. We do record these sessions, and so you will get a link to the recorded version of the session once it ends, so that will be made available to you. And then any specific questions that you have, I know we had a couple questions today about specific things that weren't working in people's environments. Feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to take a look and see if there's anything that we can help figure out. Some of this stuff is pretty different than some of the classic admin functionality. So if you're having some issues, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Great. Thank you, Sara. We had a question about the roadmap center too, and there is a link to that cell sheet in your resource list. There's the green button on your screen. So Ross and Sara, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. As a reminder, our next webinar is Financial Management in Clarity, and it's Thursday, January 24th. We also offer free half-day classes in Roadmaps in the Modern UX, Jaspersoft, Power BI, and Portfolio Management. So thank you so much for being with us. On behalf of Rego Consulting, we hope you have a wonderful day.